I believe it is important to share my perspective, the truth, especially in these times of division and uncertainty. As a private person who has often been the subject of public scrutiny and misrepresentation, I feel a responsibility to set the record straight and to provide the actual account of my experiences. Today, we're doing something a bit different, going right to the source itself, exploring the life and experiences of Melania Trump, and we're using excerpts directly from her memoir, Melania.
Straight from her own words.
Exactly. Our whole mission here is to get beyond the usual headlines, the media narratives we always hear,
Right.
and uncover the really important insights into her experiences, her perspectives as she tells them. It's basically your shortcut to getting a thorough, kind of nuanced understanding of the material.
Yeah, letting her account speak for itself as much as possible.
Okay, let's delve into her story.
It's quite a starting point, isn't it? And that quote you read, it really sets the stage.
It does.
Her stated purpose for writing this memoir is incredibly direct. She wants to share her perspective, her truth, provide her actual account.
She frames it as a responsibility almost.
Exactly. A responsibility to correct what she sees as misrepresentation, especially, as she puts it, in these times of division and uncertainty.
Right. And to really understand that perspective, we kind of have to go back, way back, to her roots in Sevnica, Slovenia. She calls it a picturesque place, nestled on the banks of the Sava River.
Sounds lovely.
Yeah, and she paints this picture of her childhood, shaped by these two really distinct influences. Her mother, Emilija,
Right.
who taught her about self-care, saying, if I don't take care of myself, how would I know how to care for others?
That's quite a philosophy.
Isn't it? And then her father, Victor, who apparently had this profound knowledge of cars, mechanical stuff.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, she even mentions him bringing home this stunning French Citroën Maserati SM when she was only 7.
Wow. Okay. So you see hints there, maybe. Presentation, a touch of luxury.
Maybe. Early seeds. She also talks about being really close with her sister, Ines.
Yes. Sharing interests.
Right. Music, design, literature, and fashion history.
Oh.
Listening to the Bee Gees, Donna Summer, Pink Floyd, icons.
Good taste. And what about the political context? Slovenia, then? Part of Yugoslavia.
Yeah, she touches on that. Says, despite Slovenia being part of communist Yugoslavia, the communism there was different. Felt more connected to our neighbors in Italy or Austria than to other communist countries in Eastern Europe.
So maybe not as closed off as some other places at the time. Suggests a different kind of upbringing.
Seems like it. And her start in modeling, it sounds almost accidental.
Yeah.
Started modeling her mom's creations when she was just 6. Then later, in Ljubljana, she did this shoot with her sister in a modest studio.
Okay.
But here's the kicker. She says, I was not informed about the intended use of the photos or who they would be shared with. There was no formal agreement in place and no compensation.
So just kind of dipping her toe in, not serious yet.
Not at all. She says she'd actually set my mind on becoming an architect.
Yeah.
Got accepted to university for it.
It's fascinating, isn't it, how she frames these early steps, just exploring, not a career plan.
Right.
But even those experiences, without pay or contracts, they sort of laid the groundwork, didn't they?
Seems so. And then came this contest in Italy. Cinecittà.
Ah, yes, the modeling contest. She won first place.
She was elated, she says. But then, disappointment.
The prize money disappearing. That's right. She calls it a betrayal.
Yeah. When my belongings were returned, the envelope containing the prize money was conspicuously missing.
And her reaction was pretty firm, wasn't it?
Totally. Refused to go back to Rome. And the lesson she took, such dishonesty has no place in my life, and it never will.
Wow. That's a strong statement. Seems like a foundational moment for her.
It really does.
Yeah.
A powerful lesson learned the hard way. And maybe, just maybe, that pushed her towards modeling more seriously.
It seems like it led to a contract in Milan with RVR.
Yeah, but she's very upfront about the difficulties, the harsh realities of the modeling world.
Right. For every job secured by one model, hundreds of others are turned away.
And the judgment. Your exterior is judged constantly. It is a brutal criticism.
Tough business.
Definitely. But she kept going. Moved to Paris, the world capital of high fashion. Faced fierce competition there, too.
She really pushed herself.
Which brings us to the really big move. America.
August 27th, 1996, JFK Airport.
She was 26. Her heart pounded with excitement. New York. A different world altogether.
You can almost feel that energy reading it.
Yeah. She describes the long black limousine, the elegant interior, and seeing the skyline to Empire State, Chrysler, The Twin Towers, that sealed it for her. Any second thoughts? Dissipated. This is where I was meant to be.
A powerful realization.
And then imagine this, seeing your own larger-than-life image on a billboard in Times Square not long after arriving.
Incredible. Talk about confirmation.
Right. She looks back on it all as a testament to my firm determination, courage, and resilience, saying she could have settled, but her inner voice urged me to strive for more.
So this big leap, after all those earlier challenges, what does that tell us about her? Her view on taking risks, on personal responsibility?
It really seems to underline that belief in, individual agency, making your own way.
Yeah, charting her own course. That theme just keeps coming back, doesn't it?
It really does. And it connects to when she met Donald Trump.
At the Kit Kat Club during Fashion Week.
Right. She describes their first date as very Donald, a tour of his Bedford property, a mix of business and pleasure.
Ah, okay. And her impression?
Successful and hardworking, but also so down to earth and real. That's what she says.
Interesting. And they found common ground.
Yeah, shared values. Living a healthy life, she notes. Abstinence from alcohol and tobacco.
Right. And the engagement sounds quite dramatic.
Yeah, April 2004, getting ready for the Met Gala. And he surprises her with this huge emerald-cut diamond ring set in platinum.
Wow. And the wedding itself sounds like quite the production.
Oh, totally. Her mother was heavily involved in planning. Even Anna Wintour and Andre Leontali helped with the dress selection.
The famous Dior gown.
That's the one. Adorned with 1,500 pearls and rhinestones, a 13-foot train, 16-foot veil, weighed almost 60 pounds.
60 pounds. Unbelievable. And the guest list was pretty star-studded too, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Shaq, Don King, Bill, and Hillary Clinton were there at Mar-a-Lago.
Quite the event. But she also talks about more personal moments, right? Like becoming a mother.
Yes. The birth of Barron in March 2006. She says it brought me a sense of warmth, love, purpose, and fulfillment.
And her parenting philosophy.
Very concise. Don't control, communicate. And respecting personal space.
And she credits her own mother for that independent streak.
Yeah. Says her mom, Amalia, never pressured me to marry early or start a family before I was ready. Understood self-discovery and independence.
That's significant. And then just a few months later, another huge milestone.
American citizenship, July 2006.
How does she describe that?
As reaching the milestone marked the sunrise of certainty. Felt a tremendous sense of pride and belonging, especially because the pathway to citizenship is arduous.
It's a tough process for many.
Right. She reflects, I had been a citizen of the world, and now finally I was also an American.
A real identity shift. And around this time, she also started her own businesses, didn't she?
Yes, her entrepreneurial side comes through. Around 2009, the jewelry line, Melania timepieces and jewelry.
Inspired by a gift from her father.
Exactly. A bracelet he gave her mother, 3 collections, Paris, New York, Palm Beach. And she specifically notes they were priced at a reasonable level, under $200.
Interesting detail. And her motivation.
Very clear. Financial independence is a core value of mine. And I firmly believe in the virtue of maintaining control over one's own life, regardless of whom you marry.
There's that control theme again.
Well,
self-determination.
Definitely. Then in 2011, the skincare line, Caviar Complex C6, using rejuvenating properties of caviar.
Okay. So these business ventures, that emphasis on financial independence, how does that connect to everything else? Her journey, her later public roles?
It really makes you think, doesn't it, about how her personal and professional lives or identities sort of weave together.
Yeah, that drive for self-determination, even married to someone incredibly wealthy. It says a lot. It feels like a core part of who she is. And you see it again as she steps onto that bigger stage.
Which brings us to that next big moment she identifies. June 16, 2015.
The campaign announcement.
She calls it a clear demarcation, dividing everything into before and after the escalator descent at Trump Tower. A historic moment.
A moment many remember. But stepping into that intense spotlight, she says it brought immediate challenges.
Oh, yeah. Scrutiny, misrepresentation, as she sees it. She talks about the 2016 RNC speech controversy.
Right, the plagiarism accusations.
She says she had no prior experience with convention protocols, assumed the campaign professionals would do whatever was necessary.
And she felt let down.
Her words. The campaign had left me on my own. You can feel the frustration there.
And then there were those old modeling photos resurfacing.
From Max magazine. She insists those images were artistic and tasteful. But she was furious when the photographer apparently boasted of his financial gain, and spread misinformation about the timing.
Leading to unfounded allegations about working illegally.
Exactly. She calls them unfounded allegations. Her big takeaway: media and individuals will exploit others for their own profit and fame.
A harsh lesson in the public eye. And the Daily Mail rumor.
About working as an escort, she says it was an unfounded rumor and no attempts were made to verify these claims.
So her account really paints a picture of feeling under siege by the media almost immediately.
That's definitely the impression. And when she talks about being First Lady, she knows how different it is now compared to, say, Jackie Kennedy's time.
Right. The ability to carefully curate an image is gone.
Pretty much. No longer feasible in our modern age of instant sharing and scrutiny, she says.
Makes sense. She also mentions transition difficulties, getting into the White House.
Yeah. Says her team did not receive the access we had requested in December, and the info they got was filled with errors, delaying renovations.
But she did undertake quite a few restoration projects once there.
She did, restoring marble floors, rejuvenating doors, reviving the bowling alley, even designed a new rug for the diplomatic reception room.
With the state flower?
Yep, 50 state flowers around the presidential seal, and replaced a dilapidated shack with a new and beautiful tennis pavilion.
So, making her mark on the residence itself, and what about her main initiative, Be Best?
She links its origin to something very personal.
Oh.
That Rosie O'Donnell tweet suggesting Barron had autism. She calls it irresponsible and hurtful, heartless, says bullying a 10-year-old is egregious.
Wow. So that directly fueled Be Best.
That's what she implies. Shaped its 3 pillars: well-being of children, online safety, and tackling opioid abuse. Her core message being about teaching kids respect and compassion online.
It gives it a different context, hearing her personal motivation. And she traveled quite a bit as First Lady, right? Many foreign trips.
Yeah, she recounts quite a few. Visiting Saudi Arabia, the first Muslim country she visited in that role.
And that interaction with Sarah Netanyahu.
Right, Sarah Netanyahu says the media hate us, and Melania replies, we have that in common. But then she says the media distorted a moment with Donald's hand, calling it a swat.
Always under the microscope. What about meeting the Pope?
A special occasion for me as a Catholic, she says. Took a rosary for blessing, wore Dolce & Gabbana lace. She also describes a tender encounter with a boy waiting for a heart transplant.
Oh, yes.
And mentions the miracle of a heart being found soon after.
These personal details really stand out in her telling of these official events.
They do. Her first solo trip was to Africa, Ghana, Malawi, Kenya, Egypt, aiming to uplift and empower women and children.
Visiting historical sites, wildlife sanctuaries.
Yeah, the door of no return in Ghana, feeding baby elephants in Kenya. And that surprise Christmas trip to Iraq in 2018.
With the president.
Right. Donald wanted me with him, and I was honored to go. She describes the darkness and the pervasive dust. Her message to the troops: thank you for your service, for keeping us safe and free.
It's really noticeable how she consistently filters these huge public moments through a very personal human lens, her own feelings or the impact on kids.
Absolutely. And that continues as she talks about the later White House years. Like COVID.
Right. She mentions seeing news about the novel coronavirus from China back in December 2019.
And observing Donald's swift and necessary decisions, like the travel ban. She also touches on the impeachment proceedings.
And her take.
No truth to the allegations. Democrats were hell-bent on pursuing impeachment. Calls it a grand political spectacle.
Strong words. And her family's own bout with COVID.
She says she decided to forego the aggressive treatments administered to Donald, focusing on milder drugs, vitamins, and a nutritious diet. Barron tested positive too, but had no strong symptoms.
And this period also saw a lot of social unrest, the George Floyd protests.
Yeah, she notes the widespread violence and destruction, and which she saw as a disregard for public health guidelines.
She also mentions being moved to the bunker.
Yes, with Barron, because of protests. Learned that all phones become permanently inoperative down there for security.
Wow. And her view on history, dealing with difficult pasts.
She argues against erasing things. We must use these moments as opportunities for education and growth. She also voices concern about trans inclusion in sports due to perceived physical advantages.
Okay. Then the 2020 election. How does she describe that night?
Pretty calm, actually. I knew the outcome was out of my control, but she is critical of the process.
Specifically?
Fox News calling Arizona early, the long counting process. She argues an election should be held in a single day. Polls should close at midnight. We need that certainty.
Right.
It says you can't just continue to count votes for days.
A clear view on election mechanics there. and January 6th, 2021.
Her account is that she was working on finishing my project. Her attention remained on our tasks. Says she was away from any television screens and engrossed in discussions about our ongoing projects.
So, focused on wrapping up her White House duties.
That's her description. Then, post-presidency, she really focuses on what she calls cancel culture.
Right, well, she gives several specific examples.
Yeah, a fundraiser for foster kids canceled after, she says, harassment spurred by the New York Times and social media.
Okay.
Her bank terminating her account, denying Barron one too, which she attributes to political discrimination. An investment bank canceling talks for a Melania Trump technology, SPAC, due to personal animosity towards my husband.
Another one.
A media partner's contract terminated after an acquisition. An email service canceled abruptly.
So a pattern she sees.
Definitely. Her conclusion. This disparity can only be explained by biases related to my last name and political affiliation.
She also outlines some core principles in the book, doesn't she? Individual liberty.
Yes, calls it bedrock. And she addresses abortion directly.
What's her stance there?
Says, a woman's fundamental right of individual liberty grants her the authority to terminate her pregnancy if she wishes. Cites reasons like risk to life, rape, birth defects, severe medical conditions.
Interesting articulation of that right based on liberty.
And finally, the FBI raid on Mar-a-Lago.
How did she react to that?
A profound sense of personal violation. She makes this stark comparison.
To authoritarian regimes.
Exactly. Says it felt more aligned with authoritarian regimes than with the democratic principles of the United States.
And she connects it to her family's past in Slovenia.
Directly. Her father's mandatory Communist Party membership, the surveillance state there, issues a warning. Americans need to understand the dangers posed by a federal government that feels entitled to invade our homes and our lives.
That's a powerful connection she's drawing. The contrast between her experience there and what she sees happening here, it's quite striking.
It really is. It makes you wonder how those early experiences under a different system really shape her views on liberty and government now.
Absolutely. And most recently, she addresses the assassination attempt on Donald Trump, July 14th, 2024.
Yes, describes her shock watching the footage. I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
And Barron's trauma?
She asks, can I explain how traumatic it is for a child to witness the attempted murder of his father?
Heartbreaking. And she wrote a letter afterwards.
A letter to the American people calling for unity, saying, America, the fabric of our gentle nation is tattered, but our courage and common sense must descend and bring us back together as one. Urging people to find love, compassion, kindness, and empathy, and look beyond the left and the right.
A call for unity after such a shocking event.
So we've really journeyed through Melania Trump's own story, as she tells it, from Slovenia to America, modeling, marriage, business, the intense spotlight of being First Lady, and now her reflections on life after the White House and the state of America.
Yeah, themes of resilience, independence, the sheer weight of public life, her personal values, they all come through loud and clear in her words.
They really do.
You know, having spent this time immersed in her direct account, it really makes you think. Consider how someone's personal narrative, laid out so meticulously in their own words like this, how it tries to navigate, maybe even reshape, the huge, often really contentious public perception that surrounds them. We've heard her side now, straight from the book.